Hello and welcome back to our channel. Today we have an interesting issue that has raised the worldwide community's interest. Prepare to be surprised as we plunge into the surprising turn of events surrounding China's 2023 largest $100 billion mega projects. China is investing trillions of dollars to build massive infrastructure projects in Asia all around the world. From China's largest transportation operation for a $100 billion skyscraper to a $100 billion project that left Australian scientists shocked, into $800 billion new megacity project that shocked American engineers. Let's embark on this interesting journey together as we uncover the amazing story of how, where, and when China built these mega projects. We will discover the fascinating considerations that inspired these major projects as we dig into the fascinating world of the makers. What is it about China building mega projects? Join us as we examine and know if there is more to the story than joining us on this journey. Stay tuned to discover the reality behind this. China's largest transportation operation for a $100 billion skyscraper. Have you ever observed the shipment of one of the largest and heaviest things in shipping history? The largest spar platform in the world has a height of 339 meters and a weight of 70,000 tons. To put its size and unique shape into perspective, imagine 3 statues of Liberty stacked on top of each other, each measuring the same height as a platform. Only one ship could transport this platform from the building location in Korea to Norway across a distance of 16,600 miles or 26,800 kilometers. This semi-submersible heavy vessel, Dockwise Vanguard, is owned by Buscolo and is about 200 meters long and over 70 meters broad. They have a carrying capacity of up to 123,000 tons of cargo. Due to a little-known but crucial feature, their decks sank 27 meters underwater, enabling them to dive beneath heavy cargo and go on vacation. Since the ship lacks a bow, any cargo with an unusual form could be placed in the ideal location on the deck. After nearly 2 months in the ocean, traveling at a pace of 24 kilometers per hour, Asta reached it to the Norwegian coast, where she was put into position and filled with 11,000 gallons of water to make way for the team platform. Because the show is so magnificent, the transportation operation itself grew to be one of the biggest in history. If you're unfamiliar with this moniker, you have probably never looked for the largest self-propelled machine in the world on the internet. Of course, we're not referring to a truck or jeep. Instead, we're referring to a bucket. To illustrate, we'll use an excavator made by the German firm Krop. Strangely, they utilized this fantastic equipment for trenching and mining, even though it was created in 1978. Nevertheless, time has passed since then, and the enormous escalator is still in use today. It's still the largest in the world today, and it's transported by a sizable number of electric motors, each of which has a power rating in the tens of megawatts, or about the same as the energy needs of a small city. Every time an excavator is dispatched to a new area of work, regular residents' interest in transportation operations is immediately peaked to a level never before seen. For instance, when this occurred in 2001, the digger traveled 22 kilometers or 40 miles to a new core. The route passed via farms, minor roads, rivers, electricity lines, and even one railroad track. In order for things to work out, the excavator had to go a certain distance, and some parts of the road, particularly those that were grassy, were also coated in sand or debris. The U.S. Space Shuttle program was established in 1982 and completed 25 missions over a period of 19 years before being terminated in October of the same year. Californians were given the chance to see his final voyage at the California Science Center in Los Angeles. At a speed of 2 mph, the spaceship soared over the streets of the city in front of adoring onlookers after 400 trees were felled to make room for the brave shuttle. 1 million and 2 million square meters of buildings have lately been constructed in China, and investors have dubbed them an architectural masterpiece. Its distinctive feature is that it's made up of towers joined at the summit. The horizontal skyscrapers are 250 meters tall, have a clear gallery, and are situated there. It measures around 300 meters and can accommodate roughly 3,000 guests each day. This heavenly bridge weighs roughly 40,000 tons, of which 12,000 tons are made of glass. The building procedure itself involved hoisting a sizable portion of a skyscraper to a height of 250 meters. One of China's biggest skyscraper development projects in recent years was this one. Its shape is somewhat curved, giving those on top of the structure a stunning perspective of the city below. In some areas of the observation deck, the floor is glass, so you can take in the city even as you glance down at your feet. The eighth and last skyscraper, which is a part of the Raffles City project that also includes a 200,000 square meter retail mall, a hotel, offices, and residential flats, cost almost $3.5 trillion to build. Tim Brown, an American, was able to move his enormous ancient house up to 900 meters. He spent a nice $400,000 on this marvel. The homes are 480 square meters in size, and they're still appropriate for habitation. Tim's ideas included erecting a high-rise structure on the side of the old house because the owner was more interested in the land than the house. He organized such a grand move there while freeing up the space he needed for himself and preserving that historically significant and beautiful object. It took him and his assistants 8 years to prepare for the move. At the same time, he was not callous to history and didn't want to destroy the Victorian-era home. At least 600 personnel were in charge of supervising the relocation of the home. In 2016, the elevator maker Mahmoud unveiled a revolutionary heavy transport technology that'll revolutionize the sector as shown by the simulation. How these adapted trailers and hydraulic generators surpass standard transport methods instead of employing heavy-duty trailers. Mahmoud proposed using hydraulic trailer-mounted boosters to drive the 6 axles that each engine can drive with 1,000 horsepower and more than 40 tons of tractor force. With this propulsion, it'll be unnecessary to use numerous trucks while still being able to navigate challenging terrain with high loads. Additionally, since the generators may be connected to different trailers, lengthy loads can be transported on them and turned around sharp curves. Amplifiers are already widely used. All-weather power amplifiers may function in temperatures as low as -42 degrees Celsius and as high as 50 degrees Celsius. If you've ever seen a wind turbine, it was usually from a distance. These enormous constructions, which can reach heights of over 90 meters, are equipped with specific blades. But how did they get onto hills and mountains all over the world, considering that these components are frequently produced in economic hotspots like China? The Jackson heavyweight vessel, which had a loading area of 6,000 square meters and was the largest vessel in its class, was loaded in 19 with 136 of the most latest blades, a total of 118 by the energy company Vestas. This huge deck is larger than a typical football field. Due to the enormous size of the blades, each was 60 meters long and weighed 12 tons, just one loading procedure took a whole week. Only after that was the ship allowed to begin the 18,500-kilometer or 11,500-mile voyage to Ferrol in Spain. The ship left on January 8th and arrived at its destination in the middle of February. But how do the blades get to the tops of hills or even mountains? It takes dependable heavy-duty semi-trailers and retractable trailers. But what about the turns on the highway with such a long load? The paths are meticulously plotted, and before the blades are put into position, trees, fences, and even lights in some corners are taken away. Additionally, the trailer has autonomous control, which enables it to follow the path of the truck without the need for manual control and without any additional wheel axles in the center. This feature enables vehicles to execute sharp 90-degree bends without veering off the road or into a ditch. But what if getting there is more challenging and the route is full of cliffs, steep roads, and hairpin turns? Trailers with adapters for wind turbines can be useful in this situation, since they include a 360-degree rotating vane hydraulic lifting system that can be adjusted for the load's center of gravity and angle of inclination. These blades each weighed 88 tons, and some trailers could transport blades that were 70 meters long. These blades could readily maneuver through the steep slopes and hairpin turns of the Chinese highlands. Each of the 20 tumbleweeds was carried during the endeavor in the city of Keqiang in the Shanxi province, and they arrived at their destination 3 hours later. China's unbelievable $100 billion project that left Australian scientists. Get ready to be mesmerized and enthralled as we explore the breathtaking spectacle of this mind-blowing $100 billion mega project, which is shocking Australia. And China is moving forward with the construction of a sizable mine in Guinea and an African nation that could be operational by 2025. Despite having the second largest economy in the world and having antiquated industrial equipment, China uses a lot of iron ore each year. The relationship between Australia and China has recently been heated. To lessen dependence, China started importing less Australian iron ore and eventually collaborated with Brazil and Mongolia. Recently, something surprising caught Australia off guard, and the German media has even referred to China as lucky. Let's first have some understanding of what the $100 billion endeavor is actually about. The focus of today's film is a large iron mine known as the Simandou Iron Mine, which is located in the Simandou mountain range. The iron metal Simandou resource in the quarry area of southern Guinea is one of the largest on the planet, with an estimated reserve of 2.4 billion metric tons, grading 65%. The Peak, the Phone, and Labor iron deposits are located on the southernmost tip of the Simandou Range, about 550 kilometers east of the nation's capital, Conakry. They're separated by about 4 kilometers and have lengths of about 7 kilometers and widths of up to 1 kilometer respectively. You might be wondering how China and Australia are connected to this iron mine, and why Australia finds it concerning after the production of hematite and hematite-gold-zinc mineralization took place at both abandoned iron formations, which metamorphosed into store-like graded up by rights. The two sides have a combined potential output of 2.25 billion metric tons of high-grade iron. Whether China has obtained the Simandou iron mine's mining rights. Without further ado, let's get to the specifics. China has been granting mining rights in the $100 billion lawsuit I'm working on about iron mines. It was an amazing accomplishment for China to assume the lead in this field when Australia withdrew its assistance. Yes, the Guinea Simandou iron mine's mining rights were formerly held by Australia. Iron is being mined at 1 billion metric tons. China is now making tremendous progress toward constructing a gigantic mine in Guinea, which is anticipated to be operational in just a few years, by 2025 to be exact. Their total worth exceeds $200 billion. China's economy is the second biggest in the world, which is not surprising. However, you might be astonished to learn that its industrial technology is not up to pace. This explains why China uses so much guineas and iron ore each year, given that the relationship between China and Australia has, to put it gently, been turbulent recently. A new discovery is likely to play a key part in addressing that demand. As a result, China is seeking methods to lessen its reliance on Australian resources like iron ore. China recently acquired mining rights for the once owned by Australia Guinea Simandou iron mine, proving that their efforts had been successful. The behavior of Guinea has startled Australia, but it's uncertain how it'll affect the alliance between Australia and China given the wide-ranging repercussions of Guinea's actions. However, it cannot be denied that China is making serious efforts to protect its future, with the recent movie serving as only one illustration of their commitment to doing so. So why precisely did Guinea sever ties with Australia and grant China mining rights to this big iron mine? Let's discuss the most significant of the numerous underlying circumstances that led Guinea to make this dramatic decision. 1. Computer project to conserve water. We're well aware that Guinea has benefited from China's support for the development of Africa. For instance, China provided construction assistance to Guinea for the Eat Water Conservation Project, which not only tackles Guinea's water problems, but also the population electricity demands. Most crucially, Guinea may supply power to its neighbors, allowing it to earn a sizable amount of foreign money and reducing the effects of China's trade connections on Guinea's economy. Despite being relatively small, Guinea's exports to China are continuously rising. The primary exports include metal rod, timber, animal origin goods, iron ore, and aluminum. However, shipments to China still account for a small portion of Guinea's total exports. Due to its exceptional grade, application, and producing, Guinea only accounted for 1.7% to well over $3 million in imports in 2014 compared to China's total imports of $1.48 billion in that year, with 46% of that amount coming from Australia and only 0.83% from Guinea. Given the minyan's good quality alimony is minimal or is very valuable, Guinea is also well known for possessing the greatest aluminum resource in the world. In addition, from 0% of the world's iron to 100%, Guinea sells iron ore to China. Beginning in 2006, Guinea began selling timber to China for 2% of its total foreign exports of $72,002,000, and it's projected that this proportion will rise even higher. This amount was split among 24 teams and totaled $18 million. While the percentage of exports to China did not drop by 62% in 2009, the amount of exports, $3.96 million, significantly decreased because of the political environment at the time. 2 years later, 68% of all exports, $70.3 million, will be to China. 2. Construction of railway. As a method of showing its thanks to China, Guinea received assistance from China in the construction of a railway that allowed its trade to expand swiftly, because it has given China the majority of its natural resources to plunder. The most notable of these is the iron mine in Guinea called Simandou. An international consortium backed by China agreed to invest $14 billion in the building of a 650-kilometer railway and a deep-water port in Guinea in exchange for the right to exploit a vast, untapped supply of high-grade iron ore. The joint venture between Guinea Society main year to book S&B and winning shipping of Singapore, sponsored by Chinese LA menu manufacturer Shandong Wakezhou and China CN Support Group, has obtained the rights to mine blocks 1 and 2. This quantity of deposit in the summer of mountain range, rumored to hold the highest grade of iron ore in the whole world, is their price. The deposit, which is considered to be contained in 2 drifts of 7.5 kilometers in length and 65% humidity, is thought to be deep in southern Guinea, and some estimates put its potential worth at more than $100 billion. Also, let's delve into how China's $800 billion new megacity shocked American engineers. The Chinese government recently announced its plan to establish a new province in northern China in a contemporary city. The metropolis already had a name and is still developing in terms of its economic structure. It is comparable to several Chinese schemes such as the Schengen Special Economic Zone or Shanghai Put-on One, which asks if China needs a new city and how many people would live there. As the Millennium Plan was still in its infancy, China's new National Area Project was the first to be launched countrywide in the 21st century. The President of the People's Republic of China is pressing for a rigorous examination of his other efforts with his large-scale programs to revitalize trade routes in One Belt, One Road. For instance, a new concept for a future city in China was just recently announced. The possibility of such a location on the Chinese map arouses not only curiosity, but also practical interest. On the 1st of April 2017, the State Council of the People's Republic of China issued a joint decree on the decision to establish a new Keqiang district in North China. This grandiose project is not yet widely known throughout the world. A province was chosen to house the city, and new Keqiang district were created in North China. The city will initially be roughly 100 square kilometers in size, but it'll eventually develop to be 200 square kilometers away from Beijing. It is situated at a distance of 100 kilometers. The new metropolis location wasn't picked at random. It may encompass a 10 times bigger area. First of all, this is the area of contemporary China that is evolving less quickly than the south, where Beijing can now outperform such a position due to its ongoing environmental issues, excessive population, and functional congestion. The new city should consequently free up the Chinese capital to do numerous tasks unrelated to administrative administration. Second, and this is a unique feature of the project, the new city will reconstruct the regional economy since it'll be created in an area with a long history of economic activity. In other words, the project will call for novel, creative, and unorthodox solutions. The methods used in Keqiang to upgrade current settlements into the city of the future will serve as a template for other areas of China. As soon as the formation of Keqiang was announced, this initiative moved from the regional to the national level. It was contrasted with both the Shanghai International Financial Hub and the city of Xinjiang, which was developed from a little fishing hamlet into a contemporary metropolis. Chinese are knowledgeable about the construction of a metropolis of millions of people is basically from scratch. 5 million people will have jobs thanks to the new city's building, analysts claim. The Chinese government has stated that Keqiang is being built to address a variety of issues as well as create a cutting-edge, world-class green metropolis employing the most recent environmental and information technology. The city will transform into a picturesque, equalized landscape with blue skies, fresh air, and clean water as economic growth accelerates. However, for this to happen, China will need to provide high-quality public services, strengthen its infrastructure, introduce a new model of city management, in addition to creating a fast and efficient transport network and a green transport system. Through the building of Keqiang, the Chinese leadership intends to carry out structural and institutional reforms to encourage a successful market. This will result in the creation of a new industrial area of the future that'll be strengthened by a well-developed transportation infrastructure and access to maritime transportation channels through the Port of Change, offering logistics for ships and opportunities for global cooperation. Many infrastructure projects, including the development of a new Beijing-Daxing International Airport, are now being carried out close to Beijing. Leaders of the new city have been selected to have a wealth of expertise building cities of the future. Since most competitors were remaining at home due to the COVID-19 pandemic in the spring of 2022, they were considering that they were missing at the time of the competition for various showman growth. While people are confined to the home, leading to the conception of housing that would not only be comfortable for the occupants, but would also supply them with all they require almost independently of suppliers. Realizing the coordinated design and construction of both physical and digital cities backed by infrastructure is the objective of creating a smart city, as has been demonstrated to him. The infrastructure for the new smart city in Keqiang is mostly from the next generation and includes technologies for intelligent sensing throughout the city, telecommunications network of the future. Because there is no existing example of a smart city elsewhere in the world that could be used as a guide for creating one from scratch, urban computing power has been allocated -X 5G for cloud and big data platforms. Based on the experience of constructing other smart cities, which were mostly drawn from China and other nations, in particular Keqiang, a new location, has undertaken groundbreaking research and practical actions in numerous domains. This includes joint research on building standards for smart cities in collaboration with top universities, research and development organizations, and construction firms. In industries including communications, building, transportation, and finance, a high-speed line linked the Chinese capital with a brand new region 100 kilometers away that China refers to as the City of the Future. The whole urban economy will use unmanned vehicles and other advancements such as artificial intelligence and environmentally friendly technology. 2.5 million people are expected to live in the new region around Shillong. 17 pairs of trains travel over the new 91-kilometer highway every day with a top speed cap of 300 kilometers per hour. Less than 50 minutes are needed to go between locations. For example, it takes 19 minutes to get from Shenzhen to Beijing Capital International Airport. According to official records, more than 4,000 businesses have been established, of which more than 2,000 are involved in technological services, information technology, software development, and scientific research. The optimal atmosphere for technology startups has already been provided by the relocation of several big Chinese technology enterprises to Keqiang. A total of over 27,000 hectares of trees were planted in the Keqiang region between the years of 27 and 22 thanks to the use of facial recognition technology, which is based on artificial intelligence and used in industrial parks, railway stations, service centers, schools, and so on. More than 100,000 construction workers in the district are working tirelessly to keep projects on schedule while ensuring strict prevention and control measures for COVID-19, which continues to be a serious issue in China. Forest cover has increased by up to 30%, and many more trees are helping to clean the air and improve the environment. Nearly 300 construction sites are also being built in the area. The infrastructure of the new city in Keqiang will be based on 5G communication technology, which is poised to pave the way for a future in which unmanned services, autonomous vehicles, and permanent city management can become safe, efficient, and profitable. Over the next 2 decades, approximately $580 billion will be invested to implement the president's Millennium Strategy and turn Keqiang into one of China's most technologically advanced and successful business epicenters. The Chinese government has set a goal of providing new travelers with 100% clean energy using renewable and low-carbon energy sources, and this goal is being achieved in part due to the integration of advanced technologies that have made Keqiang a desirable location for setting up development plans for top Chinese technology companies. In reality, severe regulations and even bans of enterprises with significant carbon emissions will be reinstated, and the new zone would use around 52% electricity for energy. The last bus stop for this video, China's new most dangerous construction project. Due to the scarcity of fresh water, we will discuss the wackiest project in China. The Chinese want to build what is likely the biggest water pipeline in the world from Lake Baikal to the heart of their country. Chinese experts have calculated that there should be enough water in the lake to provide more than 500 million residents of the Heavenly Kingdom, but that would be the end of the world's cleanest, largest, and deepest lake. They refer to it as the world's deepest lake and one of the biggest freshwater reservoirs. They also call it home to a wide variety of exquisite flora and animals, the most of which are unique to nature. However, in recent years, all of these species have come under significant threat due to environmental concerns. No matter how unbelievable, it may sound like a bagel may simply be drank as part of rising collaboration between Moscow and Beijing, which the Russian government isn't handling in the greatest way. The Chinese government intends to utilize the blue ice of Siberia as tourism attractions to address the country's freshwater shortage, which is particularly acute in the region's Gansu province. The viability of such a building has been proved by scientists and specialists. There are 8 of them in the Gobi Desert, and these designs have been effectively implemented. The tunnel should be at least 2,000 kilometers long, making it the greatest project of its kind in history. But is there any possibility that a massive lake will be drained before such a project is implemented? Let's go back to the year 2015, when Russian President Vladimir Putin proclaimed the beginning of comprehensive, mutually beneficial collaboration between Moscow and Beijing during a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. This project was given special attention because Chinese investment helped revive the Russian economy, which has been severely wounded by the Ukraine crisis and international sanctions that had not yet reached the horrific levels we see today. However, it would be naive to think that Beijing's decision to spend tens or even hundreds of billions of dollars in Russia was made only out of a spirit of brotherhood and mutual aid. The Heavenly Empire obviously intends to make money from every investor in one of its main interests. This is Russian Siberia, and it's well known that a Chinese corporation with a location in the city of Xinjiang signed a lease deal for certain lands back in 2015. The arrangement called for the selling of the property with a 150,000-acre area over the next 49 years, which the Chinese intend to use for their own purposes in order to produce an ocean of rice and other agricultural products. However, the issue goes beyond land leasing. The main objective of the Chinese project is to install a water pipeline on the lake, which will travel through Mongolian territory before crossing the Gobi Desert and ending in the capital of the province of Gansu. The Lando neighborhood in China, this project, which was developed by Chinese specialists and scientists, was included as the main point of the agreement in 2015. From a theoretical standpoint, this development is quite realistic because it's not technically difficult to build such a water pipeline, and there will be money for a ton for China. This is a crucial project that will aid in addressing the issue of freshwater scarcity in the region, and the Chinese have assured us that it would be lucrative for both China and Russia. Investors in Beijing intend to take the lead in market relations and the selling of drinking water that will be sent from Beijing not only to China but also to other nations in the foreseeable future. About 2 million tons of water will be pumped out annually, and the trademark "The Will of the Earth" has already been protected in several European nations in 2 languages. Russia asserts that a sizable portion of the proceeds from the sale of water will be utilized to rebuild and enhance the Siberian region's infrastructure. However, this raises a lot of questions about what kind of gain is being discussed. If we look at the vaginal water pipeline project objectively, putting aside the feelings and justifications of the project's detractors that such a project shouldn't exist, we can draw some interesting conclusions. According to experts, the future water pipeline will be more than 2,000 kilometers long after accounting for the terrain's features and the most practical route for construction. To pump water through standard pipes with a diameter of 1 meter over such a distance, power comparable to that of a small hydroelectric power plant would be needed. It is quite challenging to estimate the approximate cost of the average tariffs in the area for our station because the majority of running costs are incurred by paying for power. The cost of pumping 1 cubic meter of fresh water will cost energy companies a little over 60 cents at the current exchange rate where Bakeall is located, and the price of 1 cubic meter of fresh water is not as salivate as natural in the global markets reaches $2.50. Consequently, using the technique, it is feasible to roughly estimate the profitability of the project known as the China Water Pipeline. There is a bet that when water travels through a conduit at a pace of 4 meters per second for exactly 7 days, it'll still have its special healing capabilities and be as pure as when it first entered the pipe. The residents of the Celestial Empire have already made preparations in case there is a poor solution to this problem or if the characteristics of water are lost during transit. Thus, the answer to this question can now only be achieved hypothetically. Chinese investors are the main shareholders of the Aguas subcompany, which is currently constructing a powerful plant on the shores of Laid Back On. The main activity of the enterprise will be bottling the life-giving, and the Plan B that the Chinese have already developed and almost completely implemented. They sell water in bottles right next to the lake, and despite numerous legal infractions during the registration of construction and even the court's decision prohibiting construction, all restrictions were removed following the Chinese government's successful appeal. The Chinese then actively continued building the plant. This demonstrates once more how strongly the Russian government controls and approves the sale of large-hole water to China at the highest levels. The so-called real water pipeline, which is intended to transport water in special tanks by rail, stretching a water main for a distance of about 12,000 kilometers, is a third method of obtaining water in addition to the pipeline and bottling. After 7 years of operation, it is possible to reach a net profit of several $billion a year by supplying 40 million cubic meters. Unlike the typical water pipeline, water delivery in tanks, a large hole in the water supply will not in any way impact its special qualities. The fact that from February 22nd, the Chinese media has started to heavily publicize items whose overall meaning is reduced to roughly is another indirect proof of the Chinese desire for Lake Baikal. The largest freshwater lake on Earth, Lake Baikal, is intimately connected to the Chinese people and has been for centuries. In the past, these lands were known as the pastures of Sioux, and today they are famous as the blue ice of Siberia. You must admit that their rhetoric resembles pure propaganda. So even though it is less obvious, the threat of the so-called annexation of Baghdad, along with the agreement signed in 2015, is a very potent tool for exerting pressure on the Russian government. As a result, it is likely that the pipeline in Gansu province will still be constructed, albeit with some delays and without following the proper legal procedures. It is crucial to note that the water level is now 456 meters, or according to the tidal datum system, and will be a genuinely spectacular undertaking that the world has never seen before. As we mentioned earlier, the pipeline project is meant to combat the drought and the lack of drinking water in Gansu province. As per the decree of the Ministry of Ecology, the water level in Baikal must be maintained in the range of 450 to 647 meters in order to maintain and normal the ecological sea education. As a result, it is doubtful that the Chinese will pay special attention to maintaining the lake's water level. It remains to be hoped that the Chinese would maintain the lake they name and not drink it to oblivion in order to carry out their Google goals. In doing so, many more generations will be able to enjoy the blue ice of Siberia. Thank you for joining us on this fascinating trip as we've successfully looked at. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more fascinating insights into the world of Mega China projects.